Hey guys, and welcome to this explanation video. Today the aim is to go through the rotation used to 1-tick Corp and fully explain everything that happens, the items used, and the rotation. Corp has 100,000 life points, an insane amount of damage to do in 1 tick, but with a very specific setup it is possible. I'm going to split this up into 3 main parts: my gear, invent and relics, the setup and build, and finally the 100k damage rotation. This is what my preset looks like. I'm going to go through every item and explain what it does and why it's used. To start off, I've got my best melee gear, my trim masterwork legs are in my invent, and I have direct legs equipped. There are 2 reasons for this. The main reason is that this setup needs a mobile bladed dive, so I have a leg switch with mobile on. The second reason is that I don't want a relentless proc during the build. Relentless has a 30-second cooldown, meaning I won't have the chance to proc during the kill. A relentless proc during the build can also mess up timing and can stop you from using an adren potion. So to keep it easy and consistent, I have it unequipped for the majority of the setup. Next, I have a Dragon Battle Axe. When the spec is used, it lasts for 1 minute, and in Zerk provides a 1.1 times multiplicative boost to our damage, allowing me to hit higher. My cape is just a standard best in slot cape. I have an Annihilation Essence of Finality equipped. The Annihilation is a tier 87 weapon with a special attack costing 60% adrenaline. For 30 seconds after the spec is used, each successful hit on a target will gain 1 stack, capping at 20 stacks. Each stack increases your damage by 1%. This effect will cancel if you either splash a hit or you switch weapons. The reason this is put in an EOF is so I can use a special attack with a different weapon equipped, such as a Dark Shard of Lane. Next we have a Berserk Blood Essence. I recently made a video outlining how this works, but when activated, this allows me to be higher combat stats than if I were using overloads. This effect doesn't work with overloads, so I use a Super Restore, a Super War Master Potion, and a Supreme Attack Potion to ensure I have the highest stats I can. My ring is a Ring of Vigor. This saves 10% adrenaline after ultimates and means that special attacks will cost 90% of their original cost. This is important for the setup as well as the specs used during the kill. I also have a Berserker Aura equipped. Now you may know some things this aura does. It provides a 10% accuracy buff, which I don't hugely care about. It provides a stat increase, which I also don't care about because Berserk Blood Essence will get me higher stats, and it has a 10% damage boost. But this 10% damage boost doesn't work during the Berserk ability. Well, that last bit isn't entirely true. Although the damage boost normally doesn't work during the Berserk ultimate, the 10% damage boost does work on the last tick of your ultimate. This is also the case for Mage and Range with their respective auras and ultimates. This means that if I do an ability on the last tick of Berserk, I can benefit from the damage increase that the ultimate provides, as well as the 10% damage boost from the aura. Moving on to the invent. I have some Zamorak Brews and a Dwarven Rock Cake. This allows me to lower my life points to below 100 HP as I'm using the Dark Relic. This relic provides a higher damage boost the lower HP you have, capping out at 5.5% below 100 HP. The other relic I'm using is the Heightened Senses relic. This means my adrenaline will go up to 110% rather than 100%. This gives me a little extra adrenaline for the rotation and is important to have. I have a few summoning scrolls for the Calgarian Demon Familiar. This familiar has a 1% passive crit chance when summoned and an extra 5% crit chance when the spec is used. I have a Grimoire which gives a 12% extra crit chance and increases the hit cap to 15k. Because the Berserk Blood Essence retains its stat boost when unequipped, I can switch to a Grimoire after using it. I have a couple vulnerability bombs to Vuln Corp. Vuln allows you to deal 10% more damage to your target and is used pretty much everywhere. I have a rune pouch with the runes to use Disruption Shield and Borrowed Power. I use Disruption Shield so that Corp won't kill me at such low HP. My Borrowed Power is set to Smoke Cloud. When stalling an ability, which I do in this kill, you have to use a spell to release it on a different target, so something like Smoke Cloud is used for that. When stalling, it's important to know that this won't actually Smoke Cloud the boss, it's only used as a means to release your stalled ability. I have an Adrenaline Renewal Potion and an Enhanced Replenishment Potion. I'm able to use these throughout the kill due to resetting the cooldown with the Adren Crystal. I use 2 doses of Adren Renewal during the build, and I use an Enhanced Replenishment Potion in the kill for instant extra Adren. I also have a Crystal Bow. Any bow can work for this, but this is cheap and requires no ammo to use. This is used for stalling Incendiary Shot as well as using a Corruption Shot on the dummy. I have a dummy to place in the boss arena, which is used for building adrenaline as well as having a target to stall my Hurricane on. Lastly, I have another Essence of Finality. This has a Granite Maulin. I will explain why and how I use this later. Now you'll notice I didn't discuss the weapons I have. I have 4 with me. a main hand and offhand tier 95 Leng set, a tier 92 offhand Khopesh, and a tier 92 Masterwork Spear. Those of you that have killed Corp before know that he takes 50% reduced damage from a non-spear weapon. So for simplicity, I could just do the whole kill with the spear on. But that's only tier 92, not tier 95. There is a workaround for this. If you do an ability on Corp such as Decimate, then switch to the spear on the same tick, you will gain the damage from the weapons you have equipped when you cast the ability. But as long as you end the tick with a spear on, you will not incur the 50% damage reduction penalty. This can be shown quite clearly here, as all crit abilities will have similar damage ranges. A Masterwork Spear Slice hits 3039. A Dual Wield Leng Slice hits 1513, around half. But if I slice with Lengs on, then switch to my spear after I cast the ability, it's slightly higher damage than our first hit. This means I can get tier 95 damage without incurring the 50% damage reduction. I also use the Leng spec in the build. This increases the hit cap significantly, on non-critical hits from 10k to 13k, and on critical hits from 15k to 19.5k. This means I can gain a lot more damage from high hitting abilities. Now, I haven't explained what the Khopesh was for. This is my flanking. Our rotation consists of a backhand basic ability, using it with flanking for high damage. Most bosses can be flanked on the tick they spawn, so it doesn't matter that this is a solo fight. This means that after I have done my Leng spec, and stored my Hurricane, which I need an offhand Leng for, I'm going to wear a tier 95 main hand and a tier 92 flanking offhand for the actual kill, remembering to then switch to my spear right at the end to avoid the 50% damage reduction. Now, moving on to the setup. The idea with this is to have as many useful buffs active in the kill as possible. So just like before, I'm going to go over all of them and explain what they do. I have the Dragon Battle Axe spec, the tier 95 Leng spec, and the Annihilation spec active, all three of which I talked about earlier. These will provide a damage boost as well as a higher hit cap. I have the Incendiary Shot buff active, which lasts for 30 seconds. This gives me 10% adrenaline every single time I crit, allowing for faster adrenaline gain in the build, and for more adrenaline during the kill. I have Natural Instinct active. This doubles adrenaline gained from almost all sources for 20 seconds, with the exception of adrenaline potions. This means that basic abilities will give me 16% adrenaline rather than 8%, and also means that the 10% adrenaline bonus from crits that we just talked about now gives us 20% adrenaline when we crit. Lastly, I have the Berserk Ultimate active, which doubles melee damage for 20 seconds. I'm going to explain exactly what I do step by step. Firstly, I'm going to go to the Adrenaline Crystal, target a dummy and build to 110% adrenaline. I drink a Super Restore, followed by a Super War Master Potion to ensure my Dragon Battle Axe gives me a higher strength boost. I'm then going to use the Dragon Battle Axe special attack before clicking the Adrenaline Crystal again. While this is charging, I'm going to equip my Crystal Bow and drink my Supreme Attack Potion. This is because Dragon Battle Axe lowers my attack, so I want to boost it up again so I don't splash. When I'm full adrenaline, I'm going to press Incendiary Shot, then click the crystal again. This will stall Incendiary Shot on the dummy. This will effectively allow us to release Incendiary Shot later with full adrenaline. When I've reached full adrenaline, I'm going to run towards the dummy and right click it to toggle it to max hit mode. I do this so every hit I do will crit, allowing me to gain more adrenaline. I then click the dummy, which will release my Incendiary Shot, before using Corruption Shot. I put on my main hand and offhand Lengs, use my Annihilation EOF, and drink an Adren Renewal. The Corruption is used as this will give me lots of Annihilation stacks really fast, and the Adren Renewal will help my Adren gain as the Annihilation spec costs 60%. Next I use the Dismember, which also gives lots of Annihilation stacks, before using the Leng spec. Because the Leng spec is a defensive, I'm able to do a main hand auto attack after this, and because the dummy is on max hit mode, it is a guaranteed crit, meaning I gain 10% adrenaline from it. After that I use Mutated Fury. This will put me up to 110% adrenaline, but because it crits, will also give me a guaranteed crit on my next ability within 30 seconds. This is important for later. Next I equip my other EOF before surging down towards the crystal, making sure I click it before I get there. Clicking it will reset the Adrenaline Potion cooldown, meaning the next global cooldown I can Berserk, and then use a second sip of Adrenaline Renewal. This Adrenaline Renewal is important because it allows me to go through the portal earlier, meaning my buffs won't run out. I wait until I'm 110% adrenaline before doing two things. Firstly, I cast Natural Instinct, and at the same time I Bladed Dive through the portal. This Natural Instinct is going to help me gain adrenaline during the kill. I then rejoin the instance with specific tick perfect timing. This means that Corpse spawn will line up perfectly with the last tick of Berserk, allowing me to benefit from the 10% extra damage boost from the Berserk aura. When I'm in the instance, I place a dummy, target cycle it, and use Slice. This Slice is a guaranteed crit due to the mutated Fury I used on the dummy, so it's going to give me 36% adren. I then use an Anticipate, a Freedom, followed by a mutated Fury, all to gain adrenaline. The few other things I do are equip my Trim Masterwork legs, use my Calgarian Demon Spec, and use a Vuln just before the boss spawns. Now on to explaining the rotation. For this I'm going to stall a Hurricane. A quick explanation of stalling is using an ability out of attack range and not allowing your character to release it by clicking the ground, then releasing it at a later date by either clicking your target or using a spell such as Smoke Cloud. If you plan to release it on a different target, you have to use a spell. I can combine the stalled Hurricane with another ability, and the best option for this is Backhand. It is a high hitting instant ability that also generates adrenaline, so it's perfect for this. Now those two abilities alone are going to deal nowhere near 100,000 damage, so I need something else, and that something else is a Granite Maul spec, or more accurately, many Granite Maul specs. The Granite Maul spec costs 50% adrenaline, or 45% with a Vigor, and deals a high hitting melee hit. What makes the Granite Maul special attack so unique is that it can be used off global cooldown, and it also doesn't trigger global cooldown. This means you can use as many as you want, anytime you want, provided you have the adrenaline to do so. This is why the setup for this kill was so important. The rotation works by critting hits that will generate enough adren to use the Granite Maul spec an extra 2 to 3 times. This is how the rotation will look if you crit nothing. I'll first target cycle the boss and use Smoke Cloud. The Smoke Cloud is going to release my stalled Hurricane. I then use 2 Gmaul specs. This puts our adrenaline at 20%. Here I'm going to use an enhanced replenishment potion, boosting me up to 50% adrenaline. This allows me to do another Granite Maul spec for a total of 3. I'll now be at 5% adrenaline, and it's time to use my flanking backhand. This will give me 16% adrenaline due to natural instinct, and this is where the rotation will end. Now, although this rotation will do a lot of damage, it isn't enough to deal 100k, so let's look at a scenario where I crit everything. Again, I target cycle the boss and use Smoke Cloud, releasing my Hurricane. The Hurricane crits won't give me adren, so I'm going to ignore them. Next, I'm going to do 2 Granite Maul specs, but I assume these both crit, giving me 20 adrenaline each. I'm going to repeat the same rotation as before, using my enhanced replenishment potion, followed by another Granite Maul spec and a backhand. You can see that because each hit generates 20% adrenaline, I have much higher adrenaline, allowing me to do 3 more Granite Maul specs after my backhand. These 2 examples show how crits can generate a lot of adren, and that's what this rotation relies upon. Critting enough Granite Maul hits to allow you to do an extra 2 to 3 Granite Mauls. This allows me to reach that 100k damage value I need. In practice, my rotation will be this. After my mutated Fury, I run away from the dummy. I press my Hurricane keybind while clicking the ground. This will stall my Hurricane. I then use Bladed Dive on global cooldown, allowing it to generate adren. This means I can start at 110% adrenaline as opposed to 95%, because I was able to use an ability after stalling a threshold. Bladed Dive is unique and is the only ability able to do this because all other abilities will cancel the stall. When the ability bar stops spinning, which is 1 tick after global cooldown, I'm going to press the same rotation as before. Target cycle, Smoke Cloud, EOF, EOF, Enhanced Replen, EOF, Backhand, EOF, 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 Spear. Remember to do that last spear input so that you deal full damage with the rotation. This may seem like a lot of inputs, so there's a few ways to accurately perform this. You can either bind each input in a row so that you can slide your finger along one row of keys. My preferred option though is to break them up into sections. The way I do this is press 3 binds with my left hand, 4 binds with my right hand, 3 binds with my left, and finally the last bind with my right. This means I can be really fast with my presses, and all I have to worry about is doing it in the correct order. If neither of these options appeal to you, then there's always the Rago community who I'm sure will help you out. Now in most cases there will be a chat message saying you didn't have the adrenaline to perform some of your EOF specs, which is expected. But when you get the crit RNG that you need, it'll look something like this.
What they talk about in movies, our love is what they talk about.